Howdy, howdy. It's me again, Ethan, and I sure can't wait to talk to you today about something I'm very passionate about. Marches! Yeah, marches. Marches are basically they're dance pieces, but they're more formatted dance pieces, so to speak. They're more articulate. They're very staccato. Alright. And there are many famous march composers, and one of the most famous is John Philip Sousa. He is the world-renowned composer, and he is regarded as the March King. So, Sousa was born in Washington, D.C., because of course he was, on November 6th, 1854. His father, Antonio, was a Marine Corps trombonist, and that was a big influence on John. John learned to play the violin when he was 6, and then very shortly thereafter, the piano. Because it seems like all these band guys start off with either the piano or violin, but you know what happens? They don't ever play it again. And none of his marches call for a piano or violin, so that probably tells you something. He probably didn't like playing the violin. At 13, he learned to conduct, and he wanted to join the circus band, but his dad pulled him out of it. Because you had to work long hours, and you basically did child labor. And we'll talk more about the circus later. But the Marine Corps band was the next best thing for him, Well, and after that, after the whole circus fiasco failed, he went to military school, and shortly after that, at age 17, he enlisted in the Marines. And he was there for 4 years because, well, that's how long you're required to serve if you do join the Marines. And in that time, he learned more and more instruments, and he learned how to conduct even better. And after leaving the Marine Corps band, he became a traveling theater musician. You would think he would get a job in the circus, but no, a theater musician. And in 1856, while living in Philadelphia, he composed his first real score, Our Flirtation, which we will listen to shortly. And in 1880, he re-enlisted in the Marines as director of bands because the Marine Corps basically sent him a letter saying, hey, can you please come back? And I just want to say, damn, he must have been really, really good if the Marine Corps personally asked him to come back. That's crazy. And also, 1880 was a big year for him because he was married then, and he also had a daughter and a son, Helen and John Jr., and you can guess which one was which. From then on, Sousa composed march after march, like The Gladiator, the official march of the Marines, which is Semper Fidelis, Semper Fi, do or die. My personal favorite march is the Washington Post, which is such a famous march. If you don't know it, well, you should. His most famous march was Stars and Stripes Forever, which, it's okay. But anyway, John Philip Sousa is often called the March King, but it was actually a British band journalist that called him that. So, and the reason why that is because Johann Strauss Jr., a European composer, was called the Waltz King. And this journalist insisted that Sousa be called the March King, since there already was a Waltz King. And a march is a lot like a waltz, but a waltz is just a bit less staccato and a little less formatted, but a march is a lot more formatted. And also, a march has different parts of it. It has an intro, a first strain, a second strain, a trio, and a final strain. It also has a stinger at the end. And you'll know what I'm talking about when we do listen to his music. In 1892, Sousa retired from the Marines and formed his own concert band, which he led until his death 40 years later. And they toured across the world. Not just America, but the world. They even won a Royal Victorian Medal in 1901. Although Sousa could never wear all the medals he won. Like, if he did, then they would cover up his entire body, because he served in the Marines for at least 20 years, and he also got to meet the president several times. And again, he was given a Royal Victorian Medal by the royal family. So, yeah, that's a big deal. And he still is a big deal because he invented the marching tuba. Because back then, there was only so much you could do with a tuba, but now he made it easier to march with, and that's still, to this day, called a sousaphone, but most of the time we just call it a tuba. And he actually died after a rehearsal in St. Louis. After the rehearsal, he went back to his hotel room and had a massive heart attack. Yep, you never know when it's your time, man. Anyway, on to his real music. This is Our Flirtation. No ad. So that wasn't the whole march, but it was a good majority of it. And you've probably noticed that marches are a little bit repetitive, and that's all part of like what makes a march, because a march can't be too complex, because a lot of the times they were made for a band to march down the street in a parade, or made for a circus, so they couldn't be too complex. That's just not what a march is. If you want like a real advanced piece of music, I would recommend you listen to a symphony or a ballad, maybe even a waltz, but probably not a march. Marches are supposed to be fun and not too incredibly difficult to play. So anyway, this is the Gladiator that we're listening to right now. Alright, now these aren't the full marches. I encourage you to please listen to all the marches. The reason why I'm not playing the whole piece is because, well, we have other marching guys to get to. All right, now this one, the next three are like the big three anthems of the Marine Corps, and this is an important one. Semper Fi by Sousa. He wrote this, and this is still the official anthem of the Marines. And also,
composers often receive inspiration for their greatest works from those closest to them. Such is the case with the music we are about to play, a march composed by John Philip Sousa in 1888 while he was leader of the Marine Band. In the words of the composer, "I wrote this march one night while in tears, after my comrades of the Marine Corps had sung their famous hymn in Quantico." The result is a march Sousa considered to be his finest. Dedicated to the officers and Marines of the United States Marine Corps, it has been adopted as the Corps' official march and borrows its title from our sacred motto, Semper Fidelis.
well, I'm glad that proud Marine could tell you what this piece is all about. And don't worry, I'll let the Marines play it here shortly. Whew, that was hard for me to turn off. That's a beautiful march, isn't it? Yeah, I think so. Now, this one coming up is one of my favorite marches ever. It's probably my favorite of all time. I always remember hearing this as a child, but I never knew what it was called or who it was by, but I finally get to find out. This is The Washington Post by John Philip Sousa. And, well, I'm not sure entirely what this piece is about, so I'll have the Marine Corps explain it to you.
In 1889, a fledgling Washington, D.C. newspaper asked John Philip Sousa to compose a special march to be premiered at the award ceremony for a children's essay contest the paper had sponsored. With President Benjamin Harrison in attendance, the huge crowd on the grounds of the Smithsonian Museum offered their enthusiastic approval when Sousa led his Marine Band through this new work. It quickly became one of his most well-known marches, not only in the United States, but across Europe as well. The march and the newspaper bear the same name, The Washington Post.
Yeah, pretty cool. Again, that wasn't the whole march. Please listen to it on your own time. Now, this is the one that's the most famous. And yeah, this is Stars and Stripes Forever. And yeah, this is pretty cool. That was pretty cool, huh? Okay, I can see why that's his most famous march. That's just really cool. Alright, now we're going to transition to another king of marches. And yes, he is named King. Carl King. He was born on February 21st, 1891 in Paintersville, Ohio. He grew up in Canton, where he started band in middle school on trumpet, but then moved to baritone. While in high school in 1910, he started writing music. After high school in 1910, he got a job in the circus bandwagon because back then, circuses used to come to town on bandwagons, and that's where the band would be performing, and the bandwagon would get people excited, and yeah, that's where we get the term bandwagoners, or jump on the bandwagon, you know? That's where we get that, phrase. And he joined the Robinson Circus. And he then worked his way up to Barnum and Bailey in 1917. And in 1918, he became the band leader. And at age 27, he left and joined the Army. But he joined the Army a little bit too late in World War I because, like, right after he enlisted, the war ended. So, yeah, he waited too long there. Really dropped the ball. And, yeah, America didn't get involved in World War I until, like, the very end, like, late in the fourth quarter. Anyway, after the Army, he continued writing music until his death in 1971. He was survived by his son, Carl Jr., and his wife, Ruth. And I think he was actually a community band leader in Florida at the time of his death. All right, now you're probably noticing how I'm rushing through this, but yeah, that's because I'm on a bit of a time crunch here. All right, so anyway, this is Barnum and Bailey's March, which I miss Barnum and Bailey's. They were such a good company. Too bad PETA shut them down. whew, that was hard for me to turn off because, yeah, that's a pretty epic, intense march. Now, this one coming up is a very famous march. And I've actually played two of his marches before. I played Torch of Liberty, and I've also played this march coming up. And this was played by the Army Band, but I'll have to skip a little bit of it because they talk for a little while here.
All right, so...
Hold on. All right, go back.
With our audience job.
Here we go. This is... Yeah, pretty cool, right? Yeah, that's another really cool march. And up next, we got Rough Riders, another very famous march by him. All right, so we got to move on from Carl King into our third and final March King today, Henry Fillmore. Henry Fillmore was born on December 3rd, 1881 in Cincinnati, Ohio, which I've been to Cincinnati, pretty cool city. And his father, John Fillmore, was a preacher and owned Fillmore Bros Publishing Company. Although Henry's dad was kind of crazy, he was a real crazy preacher, and he believed the trombone was evil for whatever reason. And Henry was a bit of a rowdy kid in elementary school, but it sealed his fate when one time he got a stick and pretended he was a drum major and gave his friends some noisemakers and fake drums, and they pretended to be a marching band and marched down the whole school hallway. He got in trouble for it, but yeah, from that point on, he's gonna be a big band kid. And when Henry was 11, his parents made him join the church choir, and that's where he learned to sing, and he learned to play guitar. Yeah, one guitarist to another, Henry. All right. Although Henry still wanted to play trombone, but his dad still thought it was evil, but his mom bought him one in secret, and he played it secretly until his dad caught him playing one day. And his dad actually didn't beat him or disown him. His dad actually thought he was pretty good. And he said, as long as you play trombone in the church, I'll pay for lessons. And so he did. And yeah, he played trombone in church for a while Although, at age of 16, our rebel Henry dropped out of high school and ran away to be in the circus. And he thought that was going to be a cool job, but he had to clean up giant elephant shit. Yeah, pretty bad. And it was so backbreaking. And to make matters worse, when he did get into the circus band, they straight up said, well, you can't cut the mustard. You suck. So yeah, you're going to clean up more giant elephant shit. And yeah, that made him quit after only 3 weeks. And when he got home, after being 3 weeks away from home, his dad probably hugged him at first and then got out the belt and got to whipping. And shortly after he got a good ass whooping, he went to military school. His dad made him go to military school. And he was actually able to fix up a piano at the military school. And his principal saw him doing that. And he said, you're pretty good. Can you start a school band? And he did. Like, he made his own school band, even though he was a student. Not a teacher, a student. And yeah, that's pretty cool. And shortly after graduating from military school, he went and joined a real circus band, and he got to play his trombone finally. And while in the circus, he met his future wife, a special kind of dancer named Mabel, when he was 20. And I'm sure his dad was real happy about his son marrying a special kind of dancer. And it was there that he became a band leader at that time. And also, he started writing his own music. And he used his dad's company, Fillmore Bros, to publish, but his dad didn't want his name on the music just in case it was a flop. So he made Henry make up fake names like Will Huff or Al Hayes. Those are all pseudonyms, and he used quite a few different pseudonames. And he wrote marches, choir pieces, and many, many music for the next 30 years. And then him and his wife retired to Miami, Florida in 1951. While there, he conducted community bands until her death in 1954. And in 1956, he passed away. But he led an amazing life. And we're going to listen to some of his marches. First off, we're going to listen to his favorite instrument, trombone. This is the Slim Trombone March. Yeah, can you tell he really liked trombone? Yeah. Alright, and next we're gonna listen to Orange. This is Orange Bowl by Henry Fillmore. Yep, that was Orange Bowl by Fillmore, and that was played by the Air Force Band. Pretty cool. And now we are going to listen to the Circus Bee, because again, he was big into the circus. And that was part of The Circus Bee by Fillmore, and it was played by the U.S. Marine Band. Pretty cool. Alright, and this is one of my favorite marches, the Footlifter. And why is it called the Footlifter? Because you lift up your feet to march. Okay, whew. Well, we're kind of out of time now because I have a concert I have to go see. Well, those are all three of the March Kings, in my opinion. I encourage you to look up more March Kings, but I sure had fun listening to music with you guys. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.